Well, glad you're with us for another edition of Mondays with Myles and Friends. I'm Anthony Calhoun, along with the NCAA President, Dr. Brand. Always good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you, AC.
Well, today we are talking about commercialism. I'm going to ask you the question right from the start. President Brand, is college sports a commercial pursuit?
It's not a commercial pursuit. It's part of the university's not-for-profit operations. Of course, you have to do it in a business-like way, like we have to do everything else at the university in a business-like way. But that's not the goal of commercialism and intercollegiate athletics. The goal really is to make sure that our student-athletes get plenty of visibility for what they're doing.
Yeah, and what is the balance, would you say, between commercialism and athletics?
That's a really good question. All the commercial activity that's undertaken in athletics must be within the mission and the goals of the university. Once you step outside, once it becomes pure advertising, once you exploit student athletes, then you're over the fence and it's gone. So you have to watch very carefully how far you can go and get that right balance. That's a very important question you ask.
Yeah, and I know this is very dear to your heart and very serious to you. As you look around to the universities, do you think these schools are doing a good job when it comes to these issues?
You know, I do think they're doing a good job. They're trying to show the student athletes in the best light. They're obviously trying to get good publicity for their own universities. All that is fine. But they're doing it in a way that respects the student athletes as students. They're not asking them to undertake any individual advertising, put your hand on the product and say, buy this. That's not permitted. So we don't do anything like that. But we do show the excitement of the games.
Yeah.
And we do show them in a way that I think benefits both the student athletes and the schools.
You know, knowing we are in this tough economic situation, been in for, the last 8 months, if you will, how much of a challenge, though, knowing how tough the economy is now for these universities to really not pursue these commercial pursuits, if you will, and really focus on the athletic programs as well?
There is a temptation, as you're going to need more resources to conduct intercollegiate athletics, to overdo the commercialization. So far the schools have been very good at it, not overdoing it, but it's something we have to be aware of and have to keep track of. There is more pressure now because of the financial problems, but we have to make sure that that doesn't overcome the important point of the student athletes being students first.
Yeah, and you said you feel good about the reaction so far of just how monitoring these different programs, that folks are doing a good job with this, right?
And they are doing a good job, and I give the students and the schools a lot of credit for keeping it in balance.
Mm-hmm. And what message have you all sent here from the headquarters to these universities about how important this issue is?
We've made it a very important issue. In fact, we just had a presidential task force looking at it that will report to our board of directors. So it's front and center. We want good commercial activity that exhibits the fine points of the schools and the student athletes, but doesn't step over the line, that does not exploit student athletes. And how to make sure that that balance is kept is very important.
That's great. And I believe that adds to what the credibility and the integrity of the NCAA, but also the institutions by having that fine line, right?
Absolutely. You know, again, these institutions have to have revenue resources, otherwise they can't put on the games and the students can't participate. But you must do it in a way that really respects the fact that they are students and students first. That respects the fact that these institutions are educational institutions and aren't in there for the advertising alone.
Dr. Brand, as you know, we just finished the March Madness NCAA tournament the past month, and when you think of that tournament, without a doubt, you at least I think of commercialism, because you see the commercials week in and week out. That being said, are you comfortable, though, with the level of commercialism when you talk about an event like the NCAA tournament?
You know, I am. For one thing, it brings in a lot of revenue. We wouldn't be able to enable our student athletes to participate in all the minor and Olympic sports unless we did have that revenue. So it is a big commercial activity. It's a huge commercial activity, really, but that money is used to support the student athletes. Look, the main point isn't how big an activity it is, but how are the student athletes treated in that activity? How much advertising takes place is carefully controlled. Of course, that's the case. But what really matters to us is how the student athletes are depicted. And we work very hard to make sure that they're depicted in a way that's respectful of the fact that they are students and they're not exploited. And so while it brings in a lot of revenue, which is important for the entire enterprise, we try and do it in a way that's respectful of the student athletes.
Yeah, and I know you have to smile, though, because I know there's programs out there doing a great job and doing exactly what you all are asking for them, right?
You're exactly right. Our programs are doing a great job. They're working hard at it, and they're keeping in mind that important balance point you mentioned.
Okay, Dr. Brand, always good seeing you.
Good to see you, AC.
And don't forget, if you have any emails or any questions you may have for President Brand here on our weekly show, don't forget to email us at the Double A Zone. So for Dr. Brand, I'm Anthony Calhoun. Thanks again for watching another edition of Mondays with Myles and Friends. We hope to see you back here next week.